You're now listening to Directing Magic with your host, Marquette Jones.
Hello, and welcome back to Directing Magic Podcast. This is Marquette Jones, your host, and today I'm really excited. I'm always excited, you guys know that, but I'm really excited today to talk to Zora Howard, who is the lead of a Sundance darling called Premature.
So why you late?
Sounds like hush.
I'm just saying.
I just got caught up on the latest craziness. Y'all heard?
What?
About a dude in Brooklyn?
Oh, yeah.
They shot him, right? Shit was sad.
He ain't do shit. Took the stairs in his own building.
They always be doing shit like that.
But you ain't know the nigga though, right?
Shantae.
Shantae was wildin' right.
Nah, I ain't know him. So?
So niggas die every day out here.
She do got a point.
You pray for the family and you go about your day. I don't know why you tripping over this one.
You wouldn't.
What?
Hold up.
You're a black female.
Wait.
What that mean?
I ain't a female nothing. I'm a black woman, thank you.
I am woman.
And she's the co-writer, lead, star. What else? How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. So can you tell us about like the brief version of the movie?
Oh, yes. So Premature is the story of Ayanna. It's Ayanna's story, the young woman, Harlem born and bred, who's on her way to college. It's the summer before she heads off to college, away from home. And she, as we sometimes do, meets a guy that kind of changes her course. The vision she had moving forward is kind of shifted when this man comes into her life, as our lives so often are when we encounter love.
So it's a love story.
It is a love story. It is also a coming of age story, but yes, it's a love story.
What inspired you to write Premature?
I co-wrote the script with Rashaad Ernesto Green, who's also the filmmaker. He directed the film. And we were longtime friends. And when we got into the writer's room and, started throwing things against the wall, for whatever reason, love rose to the top. And we started sharing stories of our own big loves, transformative loves that took place in our own lives. So I was actually in the middle of coming out of a breakup when we were in the writer's room. So a lot of just sharing. And we always knew that we wanted to feature Harlem, that the story was set in Harlem. And we always knew it was a young Black woman's point of view. And those were kind of like our key ingredients. And then from those stories that we shared, we started to see parallel themes, things that he experienced, I experienced, and that became those became the building blocks, to kind of flesh out what we already had, which was the love, which was this young Black woman, Ayanna, and which was Harlem.
And so even stepping back from there, what got you into the writer's room with him?
So Rashaad and I have known each other for, almost 15 years. Yeah. And we've worked together a number of times, with me as an actor and him directing me. So there'd been a number of, shorts that we'd worked on together. But he met me as a writer. And we had always spoken about writing something together, creating something where we're both a generative artist, and you have an idea, you thought it for a long time, and for whatever reason, it doesn't get done. And then 2 years ago, he called me up and he was like, I think it's time. And I was in grad school at the time and he was back in New York. So on my breaks from school, I would come back and we just, sit up in his apartment all day long and really just start talking so much about process or what the film looked like, or just talking. And from those conversations, like I said, we started to get the idea, the vision of what we wanted to create together.
I'm really curious about the co-writing process. And from what you're saying, was a lot of back and forth, and you picked out major elements that you knew you wanted to focus on. Was there any point in which one person had to take the lead on where the story was going, or did it stay kind of back and forth through the whole thing?
A lot of back and forth. I think where we, kind of just worked out this way is Ayanna and Isaiah. It's their love story. There's a young woman and there's a young man. It's a young woman's first love. It might not be Isaiah's first love, but it's, a transformative love in his life, a big love. So naturally, when it came to seeing the world through the eyes of a young Black woman, I had many things to say. Seeing the world, through the eyes of a Black man, he had many things to say. Mm-hmm. That being said, that doesn't mean that there aren't parts of Isaiah that I wrote and there aren't parts of Ayanna that he wrote. Just, especially in the beginning, kind of worked out that Ayanna's experience was much informed by my own, and the same thing for Isaiah's. And then when we both got to know the characters better, then swapping scenes and, me writing Isaiah and him writing Ayana, we were able to do that more facility because we had spent time developing the core pieces of those characters. But yeah, it really was a back and forth. I write a scene. Okay, yes, I write the whole scene. And then you edit that whole scene. Some scenes we were sitting there side by side in front of a computer, me writing a thing, him deleting it, It was very collaborative. But we had to learn that too, because at least for me, that was my first time co-writing anything with anyone. So much of our writing process was just, yes, we'd known each other for 15 years, but was learning each other in this way, because to write alongside someone is to really learn in a deeper sense how they see the world and how they navigate the world. So even if I've, known you and you've been at every family gathering, to learn how someone writes and then try to, match styles, or it's just a whole different process. So we had to take our time with that.
And which scene was the hardest for you guys to write?
Oh, that's a good question. What scene was the hardest? I mean, I think, those tougher scenes between Ayana and Isaiah were a challenge, where the love between Ayana and Isaiah was challenged by something. That was also a challenge for us to write. One, because we were, throughout, we've been committed to the authenticity of this relationship, to feature that and, how young people at this unique point in their lives, how they communicate with one another. I can speak from my own experience. 17, I was so full. I had all the thoughts and feels, but I was not where I am now in terms of being able to articulate all those thoughts and feels. And especially when the stakes are that high, when you're in love, especially for the first time. I mean, all the times, but especially for the first time, I feel the stakes are so incredibly high. Being overflowing with emotion and opinion and things you need to express. And then to the person you need to express it to, being the person you hold in the highest esteem, the most important person in your life. And the stakes being, feeling like life or death. If you don't express it, if you don't communicate that thing to this person in this moment, you are going to die. Like, that's what it feels like at 17. And, both Rashaad and I are a little ways away from 17. And that's when I say, us in the writer's room, just taking our time to go back there. Both of us are, we journal, so to kind of revisit, maybe not from 17, but just revisit journals, revisit, I'm a poet as well, revisit some of, our personal writing that was born out of times that might be, similar to what Ayana and Isaiah were experiencing. We relied on all of that, but even still, those scenes, I feel like we really came to again, because we wanted to honor their truth without, as dramatic as it is, it's not melodramatic, Right. It's a very real thing. And it's, something that, so many of us have experienced. So
There was one line in the movie. I saw the film at Sundance this year at your premiere. Congratulations. It was really awesome. I was really proud of you guys. I went to school with Rashaad, so I went out of class solidarity. But I also have a huge affection for Black girl stories. And so one of the lines that really jumped out at me was, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it was, "You think this happens every day and it don't." Of course you remember that. But for me, I was like, whew. I felt that as that was probably my favorite moment. Because it doesn't happen every day. And I thought it was really great that your character, even though it was a hot moment, it was an intense moment overall, but I felt like the appreciation for how important love was there in that moment. And I thought that was really, really beautiful, actually. I don't know whose idea that line was, but that was dope.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting because, I think somebody had asked me, maybe in a talkback, because Isaiah is older than Ayana, and there seems to be, and this is her first time, with all of it, so much that she learns from him through this love. The question was, well, what does Isaiah learn from Ayanna? Because he's, maybe done this before, and he definitely been with other women before. So what is he getting out of this? Because he falls too. And I think that's, you bringing up that line, I think Ayanna has this wisdom, this kind of like earthly knowledge. She's connected to something that kind of like, it's beyond the age that she is. It's beyond her 17 years. Kind of get a sense of that through her writing, that she's kind of always watching and observing. She's a very curious young woman and is very tuned in and tapped in. And I think her being able to know that, to know that this is real, that this doesn't happen all the time, even though it is her first time, and she had experienced it beforehand. And the passion with which she, again, that trying to communicate that thing with that most important person at that time, that's what Isaiah takes away. It's something that maybe out of fear, out of whatever experiences that he was bringing to the table, that her just, her freedom to fall into this love, to lean into this love fully. It's even that scene too, where, they're on the roof.
Yes.
Inspired by her just, and who knows what that is. I think sometimes when we're new to it all and we haven't been bruised and beat up and bent and all of that we just have this like reckless abandon to just tumble into it and, relish in it. It really is a beautiful thing to witness. We're lucky to experience that anything more than once in our lives.
Has anyone else mentioned or compared the film to Another Girl in the IRT?
Just recently I saw that, but not before. I'd seen someone had written that, but I hadn't heard that beforehand.
Oh, I see it. And I say that with all the love. This is a trailblazer and a pioneer in terms of Black female filmmakers. And it's also set in New York, and it ends, your film goes in a totally different direction, in my opinion, more mature direction than that one does. But I do see kind of that being part of the lineage that your film comes out of. Okay, so moving on. How was Sundance?
Oh, it was a whirlwind. It was so much more than I could have ever, imagined or prepared myself for, even with all of the advice I had going in. But it really is such a special moment to be gathered. Everyone's just talking about film and art and, what things move them and how they're inspired. Like, it's just such a connect, like, it's like the energy it's wild, it moves very fast too. But the thing that was most rewarding, what a platform, one, to be able to premiere our film there, really to be in those screenings, the premiere, but everyone that also followed, and to speak with the audience afterwards and hear, we're moved by the film to hear that Black people felt seen in the film. Weirdly getting emotional, but that was why we, going back again to that writer's room, that was part of it. Was part of what we spoke about, who we were writing the film for. And both of us as creators, Rashaad and myself, that being something that we are consistently hungry for, seeing ourselves, and not just, like our physical selves, like, okay, images of Black people, our experiences, our truth reflected on the screen, not, okay, these are Black bodies, but I don't know anything about that. That doesn't feel real. That doesn't feel authentic. That's not what I knew growing up. So that people, they got there on their own just by experiencing our little film. That was incredible.
If you had to say, like, who were you writing for? Who would you say?
Ayanna.
Okay.
All the Ayannas and all her girlfriends. It's so funny. We were shooting one scene. There's a scene in the laundromat, and I walked in with Joshua, who's my co-star, and we were like, "Oh, that's Ayanna." There was literally a young Black girl waiting for her laundry, reading the book in the laundromat, and that was me growing up as well. So important to us to stay true to these characters that were, peppered throughout our own upbringing and our own lives. So Ayanna's one of them, so was Tanita and Shantae, Sarita, her mother, so much of my mother is in Sarita, and Isaiah's boys and all of it, so, that, and that's Harlem too, because I grew up in Harlem. So that's the cast that I grew up with, and that's what we wanted to represent on screen. And that's who we wanted to represent for.
One thing that felt different about your film is there's a significant amount of nudity, but it felt different. I don't know the word for how it was different, but it felt more organic and not salacious, and maybe to your point earlier about the freedom of your character. And I was just wondering, like, what conversations did you have about what to include or not include in that area?
Well, so much of, I think, what you saw on screen, I have to give props to Rashaad, and I have to give props to our editor, Justin Chan, because as an actor, even though I wrote it, I remember when we shot the first intimate scene on set, and I was like, not freaking out, but I was like, oh, wow, this is happening right now. And Rashaad was like, yeah, you wrote it. So I knew it was happening. I knew I was playing the role, but even still, the kind of vulnerability that it takes as an actor, sure, but also as the character, as Ayanna and Isaiah, to expose yourself in that way. And I think the same care that those, are two, they really took their time. Because like you said, it was about in the filmmaking to reflect, what the feel of that is in a young woman and a young man's life, to explore, to lose yourself, to claim your body. And that's another thing I think, in talking about Premature, yes, it is a love story, but in that it is a young woman's coming of age story. It is that very, transitional point where, the summer before college, she's 17, where you are coming into your own, coming into your body, discovering your body for the first time, discovering what pleasures you desire, all of those things. I think we need to see more of that on screen. I was also kind of like holding my breath when I saw the first rough cut. I was like, oh, Lord Jesus, what did they do with this? And I was so pleasantly surprised, because I feel like what we wrote is what we see.
I understand what you're saying as a writer, but as an actress, what did you have to do to feel comfortable in that moment, in those moments?
Because I really did feel like I knew Ayanna, that everything that I was experiencing as Zora the actor, I could use. So the nerves, those nerves are real in that moment. And the kind of like fluttering you feel in your stomach, and the increased heart rate, and all of those very human things are real for the actor, but they're, it worked in that moment because they're also real for the character. So I didn't have to, get them out of the way. I just had to embrace them. And then, what a supportive environment that I was in. Our entire crew, my co-star, everybody was taking care and recognized that, okay, this is, especially the first time we did it was a little bit a lot, so, there was so much patience and, so much communication that I really did feel supported. And I really felt like I had the space to do what I needed to do.
Well, one last thing about the actual writing of it, I do think that there's a lot of New York authenticity in the dialogue. So I used to live there, so I'm like, oh, this sounds like the subway train. And so I was wondering how much of that was improv versus written in advance.
I would say the large majority of it was written in advance, but we had the most incredible cast. The young women, Alexis Marie Wint, Tashiana Washington, and Imani Lewis, who played my girlfriends, are all New Yorkers. Okay. All grew up in New York. So they brought the real, they brought the truth to it, because they knew it so intimately. It feels so like it's happening right there in the moment, because they brought that living thought, that right there-ness to it. And then I'm not to say that there wasn't improv, there was tops and tails of scenes. Like when we were getting into what was written, we were just having a good old time on set. All that laughter that see in the film, so much of that is genuine because these women are hilarious. You know?
Yeah.
So we would be cutting up on set and then it'd be like action and we just, go into it. So that life is that you feel between those young women is real. And then there are definitely some kind of like moments of the film that were improvised by the actors.
What was your favorite improv line that made it into the film?
So the scene with Tanita, Ayana's best friend, and Ayana, when after all the drama, when she's at Tanita's house and they're lying down on the bed, and Tanita's comforting Ayana. We originally wrote in a Lil' Kim song there because that is such a very real thing between me and one of my best friends. It's like she speaks words of motivation and encouragement through the lyrics of Lil' Kim. So that was what was originally.
I'm getting chills right now. I'm like a huge Lil' Kim fan, so I'm like, yes. You know
what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't have the words to express what you need right now, but I know someone who does. So that was written into the script because, again, that was what was real for me. But then we got to set and we were like, you know what? We are probably not going to get the rights to this Lil' Kim song. So we had to come up with plan B really quickly. So we started one way with Lil' Kim. And then we said to the actor playing Tanita, Alexis Marie Wint, can you give us something else? Can you give us another option? And what ended up in the film, that's completely her. So that song there that she used to kind of lift Ayana's spirits, she completely created. And I think it is such a beautiful moment. It's, I think about it, and even on being like, I've known Alexis for a very long time as well, and being on set and filming that with her, it felt real good.
Awesome. Premature, what's next with the movie?
What's next with the movie is we have our fingers crossed. We want to be able to share this with everyone. And as many audiences, Utah was great, but there's more than Utah. We want to get it in New York. We want to get it to communities for which we wrote it. Our hope is that in the near future, we'll have the opportunity to share it with many more,
Gotcha. And what's next with you personally?
What's next with me? So I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a playwright. So I have a play that is in development and I have a reading next week. Jesus Lord, I'm in the middle of knee deep in rewrite, but this is my favorite part of any process is when you get actors on it, when you get to hear, you're writing out loud what you intended to be spoken aloud and shared, when you actually get the opportunity to take it off the page or hear it off the page. So that's happening next week. So I'm super duper excited. Theater is where I began and where I still am. It's my first love. So I'm much looking forward to that.
And what are you excited about that has nothing to do with business or creating?
Man, spring. It is cold as God knows what in New York right now. It was actually, when we were in Park City, it was warmer in Park City than it was in New York. And then we got back last week and there was that half a second of, it's 59 degrees and now it's back to cold as. So but the sun is shining and I feel it coming. So I'm just looking forward to spring. Awesome. And all the, potential and opportunity that comes with spring.
If people wanted to reach out or find out more about you or the film, where should they go? Who should they contact?
They can check us out across all social media platforms at Premature Film. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We also have a website. If you want to contact us directly, there's an email address on that website that you can reach out to.
And the web address for the website is prematurefilm.com?
Prematurefilm.com.
Awesome. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. And Zora did not publicize herself, so I will just tell you guys she also has a website called zorahoward.com, and you can check out what's the latest with her there as well.
Yes. Appreciate you.
Thanks again, you guys, for tuning in. And what's next? I don't know. Do something you're excited about and tell us about it online, social media at Directing Magic, across all the platforms. And that's it for today. Thanks.
You've been listening to Directing Magic with Marquette Jones. Be sure to visit directingmagic.com for past episodes and other information relating to the show. Also, be sure to subscribe and rate and comment on iTunes. Until next time, bye-bye.